Hey everybody, here we go. This is the last thing I read. Is this it? Is this just, yeah. I always gotta check which lens it is because one of them is the light. One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich. This is a very, very popular book published in 1963. This was like the first book to be published by the Soviet Union to say, hey man, the Stalin years kind of sucked, didn't they? Alexander Solzhenitsyn spent a decade in the Gulag system, which is a bunch of work camps in Soviet Russia. And this book takes place in 51 or something in one of the gulags. Just one day in one bloke's life. This book was less of a novel at its release and more of a prolonged article exposing what life was actually like in a gulag. This book is essentially a slice of life. You know, it's just a really lame, like a really crappy life. Actually, I DNF'd the book when I first picked it up because I got like 60 or so pages through. It was like 158, and like by page 60, I was like, this is just gonna be it. I'm gonna be hanging around with some guy in a work camp. I put it down, but then I was like, you know what, man, that's just a couple of pages, and it's a historical event. I better, you know. What are we doing here? And the second time around, it really spoke to me because I got to understand the mindset that's present throughout the entire book, but I got it later on. There is a kind of, not so much deceit, but like a cunning that everyone employs, no matter where they're at. Everybody's trying to get ahead in their little corner of the gulag. If you can get an extra bowl of food, if you can swipe some of the gifts from the parcels that they might get from their families. Everyone's taking taxes. Everybody's getting ahead how they can. And even in the first part of the book, when they're looking for supplies to build something for the machine shed their supplies are missing, so they have to go and take supplies from elsewhere. You know what I mean? That cycle just continues on and continues on. Likewise, everyone has a common hatred for each other because of this very same action. It reminded me so much of the times that I spent in homeless shelters and in rehabs, the way that people think when they're institutionalized, they don't see very far beyond the present moment. That way of thinking is described way too accurately to be faked. You know, even if the people are fake, all the motivations for every single person at their position on the chain, that's 1,000% real. You can't make that kind of stuff up. Nearby said Captain Buanovsky. He had long finished his kasha. He didn't know the squad had 2 extra portions to dispose of. He didn't look around to see how much Palavov still had left to hand out. He was simply relaxing, warming up. He was not strong enough to rise to his feet and go out into the cold or into that icy warming up spot. He, like the very people he had just hounded out of the canteen with his rasping voice, was occupying a place he had no right to and getting in the way of the next squad. He was a newcomer. He was unused to the hard life of the Zeks. Though he didn't know it, moments like this were particularly important to him, for they were transforming him from an eager, confident naval officer with a ringing voice to an inert, though wary Zek. And only in that inertness lay the chance of surviving the 25 years of imprisonment he had been sentenced to. It wears you down, man. The main character is a guy who is, like so many other people in this novel, in the gulag for no good reason. During World War II, he was caught on the German front, and he was captured and put into a POW camp, he and some other cats. They escaped the German POW camp, traveled back to the Soviet camp, where they accused the 2 of them as coming back now as spies for Germany. There were 2 choices implied here. He can either admit his guilt, or he could maintain his innocence and, since the can't be substantiated, be shot. But he knew this and realized the only way for him to survive this ordeal is to give a false confession. And for that false confession, he was sentenced to 10 years. A lot of people have similar stories in this book. But that act of choosing life over honesty, that is what I'm talking about with that cunning. That's what allowed him to survive that and to continue to kind of thrive in this scenario. It wasn't the most entertaining until I understood that. Now's the time where I just kind of tell you the whole story a little bit. I'm just gonna go quickly point by point. You're not really gonna get too much out of me that you wouldn't get from, like, you know, Cliff Notes, but this is my brand. I spoil things. I'm that guy. So here's the place where you can skip to, and you probably should. Alrighty. So Ivan wakes up and he's sick. It's before the bell rings, and he's feeling kind of like crap. He's like, oh man, I didn't see it coming last night. I gotta go talk to somebody. He decides to stay in bed, and then someone comes through. He's like, hey man, you get 3 days in solitary. He kind of extorts some work out of our guy. He has to take that guy's position in the later that morning, washing the floor for the guards. And this is another common thing in the story. The prisoners who have a little bit of power over the other Zeks treat the other prisoners way worse than the guards do. He gets a little bit of breakfast. He goes to the doctor. It's too late for him to sign out for the medical. If he decides to stay back, he's gonna be in major trouble for it. And during all this, the people are like crowding around this thermometer, hoping that it goes below 20 degrees. If it hits under 20 degrees, then they don't have to go out and work. So they're just crowding this thing while it's dancing around 17, 18, but doesn't crack 20. They all get lined up. Check them all for like contraband or whatever. The new rule is that they have to take off everything down to their skivvies, which is totally messed up because, you know, they could at least have held on to some of the warmth inside their coats. One of the guys who used to be a naval captain got caught wearing extra layers, so he gets sent to 10 days in the cell, which is the place where you don't have to go and work, but you don't really eat either. But it doesn't start today, it starts after today, you know what I mean? We gotta get some work out of you first. And so they march him up as the sun rises over to the machine shop where his crew, the 104th, nobody gets individual rewards, like individual rewards for the work that they do. They give rewards as a team, which encourages them all to push each other, you know, kind of like the Panopticon, except for your paycheck. They all try to work their best, and the guy who runs the squadron, or whatever they're called, he has to pull up a report. So if those guys continue to work as best they can, he really has no reason not to fudge the report in their favor, you know what I mean? Everybody's trying to get ahead. So they're working in the machine shop, and there's a bunch of holes in the machine shop. So they go out, and there's no lumber. Lumber they're supposed to use as a gun. So they get some like felt paper and steal it from where the guard's not looking. They pick it up and carry it over and patch the walls. Hopefully no one sees. Then they get to work, and they're taking lumber from one place, putting it elsewhere, just trying to make $1 out of a dime, you know? And the work helps them, you know, helps them to forget how bad everything is because they got something to warm their bodies up, and they're focused, and they have a mission. And the next thing you know, it's lunchtime. And actually, Solzhenitsyn got some flack for that because there's nowhere in this book that anyone's trying to really escape the gulag.
What kind of garbage is that? Oops, my anarchy symbol.
He goes to lunch, and he somehow swipes some extra food during lunch. During the lunch portion, he's telling you all about how the people in their cushy indoor jobs, like getting all the lunch stuff ready, they all just take as much of the food as they want, screw the Zeks, you know. Everyone who helps them out gets double portions, and then anyone else who's popping up, you know what I mean, they just get what's left. So everyone's supposed to get 1 portion, but you might end up getting a half a portion. So that encourages like people to be on the lookout for extra bowls, to steal stuff. So lots of that is like just straight up happening. So our guy, Ivan, snatches up 2 bowls and gets to share with another cat. This is where that earlier quote comes from, with the guy, he like tries to kick all the people out, and then he's in there lacking too. They go back to work. Some guy who, you know, freaking works for the man, he comes up and he's like, what are you doing? You know, to the squad leader. And he's like, this isn't just an infraction. You'll get another term for this. They corner this guy, and they're like, oh yeah? If that's the case, then you won't be breathing the next morning, brother. And he's like, oh, well, oh, okay. Wheelers tend to pop up dead. They want to finish up the work, and so they kind of stay a little later than they're supposed to. He stashes his extra tool so that no one will be able to like see it and take it from him. There's a guy named Caesar, and he gets like mad paper. He gets lots of tobacco, gets meat, butter, and all kinds of really nice stuff. Our guy Ivan is like, he holds the line at the package office for him. He gets his package, and Ivan gets to have Caesar's meal as well, so he gets double lunch and double dinner. He does a deal to get some extra tobacco, and Caesar got all of his stuff on his bed like a freaking idiot, like no one's like gonna steal it. So he gives homeboy some stuff, I think some like butter and some like biscuits, a little bit of sausage, and they have to go and do another count. Ivan helps him not to get his stuff stolen because this guy doesn't have the freaking like crimey mindset, so he helps it up for him. And then he goes back, smokes a cigarette, talks with the homie Alyosha about God, goes to sleep. That's it. It's a slice of life novel, you know, it's not edge of your seat type of stuff. Like I said, there's that bite of reality. You can't shake it. Especially with just how procedural the whole thing was. All the times you have to line up by fives. I can see just how used to it Solzhenitsyn is, you know? I would give it on a good day, and it's probably climbing. This rating is probably climbing. I'm comfortable giving it like a 3.5, 3.75. It's different from anything I've read. Is it? I don't know. Alright, thanks for watching. I don't have anything else to say. Ever. Don't ever have anything else to say. Okay? What we got is what we got.